In this video, I'll show you how using just two values is very powerful in your paintings. And it's in my book, Ellen's Guide to Design Elements, which is $5. Let's start with a white subject in a dark background. So where would we see that? We would see that in a still life, especially one that is front lit. And here, the light is behind our right shoulder going in this direction. So it makes sense that the back is dark because it's the furthest away from the light. We would also see a white subject in a room that's, for example, lit by window light, but we would not see a white subject in a low lighting situation. These window panes are probably white, but in the low lighting situation, they would look dark. This boy with a picture is front lit, meaning that the light is coming from behind our left shoulder. So the dark background makes sense with front lighting since it's the area that's furthest away from the light. Front lighting tends to flatten forms since we see little of the shaded side, maybe a little bit here. So the figure is mostly light. Now with two main values, as we see here, we can't really identify the focus using value or color contrasts as we usually do because there's so much value contrast all around his form. So instead, we go for what's most interesting, his face, then we look at his hands, and then the picture. Now, I just want to talk about the picture and the water coming from the spout. The water is going like that. So it is passing across a space with great vigor, and most of this line is implied. We don't see most of it. The jug must be full of water because the water is spurting out so fast and because he's bending backward, so his head balances the heavy jug. And he's maintaining this balanced, motionless stance so he can aim the water into his mouth. Now, let's imagine instead that he put the pitcher up here above his head and just had the water dripping down through gravity. That wouldn't have the same energy as this picture does. We commonly see dark figures on a light background, like birds or trees against the sky. And dark figures with a light background suggests backlighting with the sun in front of us, so we see the shaded side of the figure. And as a result, we don't see many details. The colors are dark and dull. It would be like objects on a windowsill. But instead of backlighting, a dark object in a light background could just be a really dark object, like this dark dog. Any drawing or writing is harder to read when it's white on black than when it's black on white. So far we've talked about white on black and black on white, but two values don't have to be black and white. They can also be a mid-value. So this red is a mid-tone between black and white. So it forms a lower value contrast with the black than do these white flowers. But the strong color saturation here of the red adds to the value contrast. So I think that both of these bouquets stand out well against a black background. One because of value contrast and the other because of color saturation. And the black augments this value contrast here and also augments the color saturation of the red. Now you can also have a mid-value on white, and when it's a light mid-value, it's good for fragile subjects like flowers. So if we have two values and one is a mid-tone, we could have black on mid-tone or white on mid-tone. But most paintings are mid-tones on mid-tones because there's just an infinite number of them. And most colors are mid-tones. Most colors are mid-tones because we have only one light color, which is yellow, and two dark colors, which is blue and violet. So all the other colors are mid-tones. And there are complementary colors, which are midtones here, the red and the green. And these colors are as opposite as colors can be on the color wheel, and yet they seem to belong together. It's amazing to me. I get a much warmer feel from these colors than I do from these, which aren't complementary. This shows you the 6 possible combinations using 3 values, black, white, and gray, and using 2 squares. And when you do that, you'll see that the size of the inside square seems to change depending on its surroundings. So the white square here looks bigger than the black square here. And this white square looks maybe a little bit bigger than this gray square. So we still get an apparent difference in size, but it's not as great as when the value contrasts are more extreme. And over here, if there's any difference in the apparent size of this middle square, it's difficult to know. When you determine your value pattern, the size and distribution of the value areas should differ. So these are too similar in size. These are too different with one big glump and the rest are little. If you have values that you are putting on the edges, then you need to put values on the other edges to balance it. Or if you put the values in the middle, then usually the other values are in the middle. In other words, you don't have a big glump in the middle and one over here because the picture would be unbalanced. Although there are other things to put on this side to balance a value, and we'll get into that later. The problem with just using black and white is that it's difficult to achieve unity. For example, this painting, we know that the face is the focus only because we recognize it and because it has this small black dot here. Otherwise, we would follow all these value contrasts right out of the picture. Now, when we add gray, it's less dramatic than this, so we lose some vitality. But what we gain is unity, because now the face is definitely the focus. And we don't follow these lines out of the painting anymore. In fact, they seem to lead us to the focus. So for something to be unified, you have to have a dominant area or a focus, because that means there are subordinate areas that lead to the focus. In this other picture, this is very dramatic, but we don't know where the focus is. And when we add some midtones, we start to see that the focus is in this area. I said before that it's hard to establish a focus with only 2 values, the most extreme ones. But you can if you use a variety of sizes of the value areas. So in this first picture, we have a large value area here, and then it gets smaller and smaller until this one is the smallest value. And they are distributed in a way so that it will lead the eye. And the eye will come in from the lower left and either go through this white area or this white area, eventually going up here to see the face, and then able to escape through that little white it's called a passage, so that the eye can go to the window. And in the second case, there are multiple pathways to the focus. So there's no question as to what is the focus. So remember my book on Amazon, which is only $5, and please remember to subscribe.